self-employed. You can't tell me that you didn't know that you couldn't buy a Bentley or a Lamborghini or a luxury yacht.
Feds say fraudsters use PPP funds to buy multi-million-dollar homes, luxury sports cars, yachts, even a private jet. And when the FBI came knocking, one woman hid a duffel bag of cash, approximately $400,000, in the bushes behind her house. To date, the Inspector General's oversight of the PPP and COVID-19 EIDL programs has brought 1,437 indictments, 1,070 arrests, and 793 convictions. How much did you actually make off these PPP loans?
It was substantial.
In an ABC News exclusive, we sat down with someone who was criminally charged with exploiting PPP funds. Diamond Blue Smith made a name for himself in the early 2000s as part of the R&B group Pretty Ricky.
I went from famous to infamous overnight, in a snap of a finger.
Smith says the COVID-19 pandemic hit him hard when it forced his group's reunion tour to shut down.
It was devastating, I think, for everybody.
There's a lot of mouths to feed.
A lot of mouths to feed, for sure.
Smith says he was looking for ways to keep making money during the lockdown when he says someone he knew and trusted told him he could help him get a loan.
So he's calling me like, yeah, man, open up your phone. Man, just click right there. Yeah, click it. All right, that's it, man. That's it. I ain't read nothing or nothing.
You said just fill out these forms, and you filled out the forms.
I didn't fill them out. They filled them out. They said click the button. All I did was click a button, and that got me in prison.
How much was it?
Like $420 or something.
$426,000. You didn't have a thought, maybe this is too good to be true?
No, I'm in the music business. We make money like this all the time.
Smith says he paid that man a commission of $200,000 for helping him secure the loan.
So I didn't think nothing of it. All I thought was, let me give him his percentage so I can have done good business.
Prosecutors say Smith then falsely applied for a second loan in his mother's name and received an additional $700,000. Then he says he spoke to his accountant.
He said this was a PPP loan. I said, what was that? He said, this is a government PPP loan.
Prosecutors say Smith was part of a South Florida ring that applied for a total of $35 million in PPP loans. So where did the money go?
In the accounts.
And then from your account, what'd you spend it on?
I did some charity stuff, gave out money to friends and family, like Santa Claus.
The prosecutors in this case said that you had deliberate ignorance of truth, meaning that you just didn't want to know the facts.
That's how they painted it. Me telling you I didn't know is hard to believe.
Prosecutors said instead of employee payroll, Smith spent money on purchases like a Ferrari, shopping at Versace, and over $27,000 at the Seminole Hard Rock Casino near Miami. So you don't apologize for the lifestyle because this is something that you've been leading for a long time now.
That's in my business. A luxury car is what is in the business. Clothing is in the business. Hair, makeup, a stylist, travel expenses. Those are business expenses for the music business.
Smith pled guilty to conspiracy to commit wire fraud and served a year in federal prison. His mother was never charged. Blue maintains the DOJ targeted him partly because of his profession.
I'm a public figure. For a headline, they prosecuted me.
With link analysis, on that case alone, 30 people were convicted, 30 different people in that same ring. So what do we say about the other 29 people that were in that ring? There was no singling out of anything.
Smith, who now performs under the name Big Money Blue, wrote a song and produced a video about his time in federal prison. Today, he is adjusting to life as a convicted felon, trying to pay back the $1 million he owes to the government and volunteering with others transitioning from prison to public life. He says the money and what he did with it was worth the time he served.
It wasn't about me, it's about the people I helped. And I thought about all the people that I helped in the process. It's like sometimes somebody has to sacrifice for other people to survive.
What do you say to someone like that?
I would say that these programs were designed to help hurting small businesses, and that anyone who would use them to enrich themselves fraudulently should be held accountable.
Mo money, mo profit.
at least for former Atlanta City Attorney and Democrat Shalitha Robertson. Now, she was just sentenced to 7 years behind bars after being found guilty for pandemic loan fraud over $15 million worth. Robertson gave out this advice in 2023.
Goes back to what I've always told you. Don't ever chase the money.
Mm-hmm.
The money will come.
Chase the universe, not the bag.
That's it. Chase your passion, baby. Chase your dream. The money will come.
Yeah, the money will come courtesy of the American taxpayers. Because safe to say, she didn't practice what she preached. In April and May of 2020, Robertson chose to follow the money and fraudulently applied for millions of dollars in government loans for 4 businesses that she owned. And then she hooked herself up with luxury items that came with a very steep price tag, such as a swanky Rolls Royce, a 10-carat diamond ring. And Georgia filings show that she donated $1,000 to Trump prosecutor Fani Willis's Democratic primary election campaign. That donation went through around the same time that Robertson received her massive payouts from the Paycheck Protection Program. Harris, you can't make this up.
No, I mean, when you hear about all the candy that she was raking in, she was rolling like J-Lo before Ben Affleck. You know, is there a fiduciary responsibility of Fani Willis as a district attorney to pay attention to, as then a candidate who's donating to her campaign? Like, when you get a certain amount, are you responsible for looking and seeing where that money came from? And if you are, in something like this hoax, are you also responsible for going after that person? I mean, I have questions for Fani Willis now. Robertson basically answered them all. She chased the money, and she was trying to make sure that the pot was big, so she was trying to tell everybody else don't chase the money.
Right.
So when she got there and found the money, it'd be waiting for her.
Right. And according to 12 New York jurors, then absolutely every dollar needs to be scrutinized when you're coming about election, right, Kaylee?
Yes.
In politics, there is a drumbeat, like with Harvey Weinstein when I was at the RNC. They were demanding the DNC pay back the money that was paid to them by Harvey Weinstein in the form of donations. So that is a fair question for Fani Willis. But the audacity of this woman, the Paycheck Protection Program came into place during COVID when I was in the administration, and it was for the purpose of being given to business owners to keep your employees paid, because employees couldn't work. Businesses, we didn't want them to go under. So this PPP program was for that purpose. This woman wrote on a form that she had 4 companies and 427 employees. I looked everywhere. I want to know how many employees she actually had. She clearly didn't have 427. She wanted to go out and buy diamonds.
Well, you can steal the money without any employees, which was part of the fraud, just to be clear. By the way, that program was $1.2 trillion. Just last summer, there was a report that $200 billion possibly was spent in fraudulent claims, PPP, unfortunately. There was the pastor in Minnesota. He said he had 28 employees. He didn't have any. There was a pastor, a man in Florida. He bought himself a $3 million home, didn't even have a business.
Wow.
I mean, the fraud was massive. So it was meant in a good way, obviously. But look, at the end of the day, you know, Sam Bankman-Fried, all that money that crypto stolen money that he gave to all those politicians in D.C., they're not giving that back.
That was
So.
the other shush fund.
But Lawrence, here's the thing. The government only makes money because of our taxpayer dollars or what it seizes from us. So the good idea wasn't actually a good idea. If they would lessen regulations, that's how businesses thrive and are able to actually make an income. So her getting the free money and everything that people used to crow about and sing about, it is our money that not only goes to the government, but then goes to those fraudulent recipients. And it seems that no one in that party ever appreciates or recognizes them.
They don't understand it, and they're so hypocritical. And this happened all over the country. But what's particularly egregious about her case is part of what her claim to fame is justice, especially in the area. And ATL is the modern day Black Wall Street. She was stealing money from the community that she said that she was advocating for. $15 million that were supposed to go to employment of those Black residents, while still saying under the banner that she's saying no justice, no peace, racial justice. How can you advocate for that and steal from those same people in the area?
Cheryl, authorities say the alleged offenders were able to obtain loans in the range of $20,000. Many of them simply wrote down names of fake businesses on their applications, and some even applied for the loans while sitting in jail. Joliet police, along with federal authorities, announcing the indictment of 25 people who allegedly defrauded the Federal Paycheck Protection Program, or PPP, which helped struggling businesses during the pandemic.
These PPP loans, that if they're obtaining them fraudulently, they're taking that money out of the businesses in our local area that actually need them.
The investigation, dubbed Operation PPP, targeted people arrested for felony weapons offenses who had also applied for unemployment benefits. The investigation was then able to identify those suspected of defrauding PPP.
Getting their application, and part of the prerequisites was they cannot have an open felony indictment, which is how we came up with our list of candidates.
Police say some of the alleged fraudsters were already in custody and used phones at the jail to call to complete the fraudulent applications.
That some of the targets botted out on their felony cases days after receiving their fraudulent PPP loan.
Police say of the 25 indicted individuals, 15 have been arrested and 10 more are still being sought.
Without holding offenders accountable, history has proven that bad actors will shamelessly defraud the government and taxpayers in the name of greed.
PPP loan fraud is hardly unique to Will County. It's a problem nationwide, and currently the federal government is working to recoup billions of dollars in fraudulent payouts.
The feds indicted an Erie County man on charges in an alleged PPP loan scheme, also known as the Paycheck Protection Program.
The program was created during the COVID-19 pandemic to help businesses struggling financially. 13 Action News reporter Alexis Means has the details, all new at 6.
The federal court documents claim Daniel Hitland from Erie County is facing federal charges for alleged bank fraud and money laundering of millions in COVID-19 pandemic relief funds. He's accused of submitting 3 false Paycheck Protection Program, also known as PPP loan applications. Federal agents claim Hitland received more than $2.5 million for his businesses, Sailor Sales, LLC, and Daniel Robert Hitland, DRH. He allegedly used the money to buy an $89,000 Escalade, a $49,000 Corvette, $20,000 in Rolex watches, and 2 properties for $418,000 with the pandemic relief money. PPP loans were part of a federal program to provide financial help to business owners struggling financially, suffering from the COVID-19 pandemic. Investigators claim Hitland lied about the number of employees and payroll on loan applications by submitting false payroll documents with his applications. He will be required to forfeit all the property he allegedly bought with the money. Daniel Hitland will face a judge on Monday. In Toledo, Alexis Means, 13 Action News.
And we reached out to Daniel Hitland's lawyer, but he has yet to return our phone call.
And now to the alleged criminals looking to exploit the COVID-19 crisis and the trillions of dollars in government relief. The Justice Department today disclosed details of what it calls a historic effort to crack down on these COVID-related scams. Here's a look by the numbers. The DOJ says it's charged 474 defendants with fraud schemes connected to the pandemic who collectively tried to scam $569 million from individuals and the U.S. government in 56 federal districts all over the country. At least 120 of those defendants are charged with Paycheck Protection Program fraud. Now, one Texas man pled guilty to fraudulently obtaining more than $17 million in PPP funds by filing more than a dozen loan applications and then using the money to buy homes, jewelry, and luxury cars. More than 140 defendants have been charged with federal unemployment insurance fraud since the pandemic began. Now, one of them pled guilty to scamming more than $499,000 in jobless benefits. And finally, a whopping $580 million. That's what the DOJ and Secret Service say they've seized from people who've defrauded a federal loan program meant to help small businesses and charities. Sickening.
Oh my God.
As neighbors in this Florida suburb sipped their morning coffee today, Josh Edwards was led away in handcuffs. His father, Evan, following soon after. According to a 6-count federal indictment, Josh Edwards lied on an application for a PPP loan back in April 2020 to keep the family's Christian ministry afloat during the pandemic. Asking for $6 million, the government approved a loan for $8 million. Edwards claimed there were nearly 500 employees and $2.7 million in payroll expenses. Both claims were false, according to prosecutors. Instead of setting up a ministry to help the poor, the Edwards tried to put a down payment on this $3 million house near Disney World. NBC News profiled the case back in June.
Including one Florida-based family ministry that received millions of taxpayer dollars to pay employees.
The Secret Service was on to the Edwards in September 2020. The loan application was signed off by an 88-year-old accountant suffering from dementia, and there were no signs of any employees at the ministry's office, according to court records. When agents tried to confront the family of four, the cars were gone.
Police were waiting on this highway on-ramp for the Edwards as they headed north. When they stopped them, the father said that they were on their way to a conference in Texas, but he couldn't provide any details. And according to the authorities, in the back seat, there was a paper shredder the family bought the week before and garbage bags filled with shredded documents.
But the family was eventually let go, and although the money was seized, there were no criminal charges. We knocked on their door a year and a half later. Neighbors telling us they still lived there. The U.S. Attorney's Office did not comment on why it took so long to indict the Edwards. An attorney for the father and son had no comment, while a judge ordered they get medical and psychiatric evaluations.
So, Stephanie, is it clear why they are acting now?
Well, you know, Lester, a source familiar with the investigation tells us that our previous reporting on this story led authorities to prioritize the case, and it's one of many. Of the $800 billion that went out in PPP loans, experts estimate that $80 billion of it went to fraudsters.
Right.
The feds are now using AI tools to identify and arrest and indict and send to prison those who unlawfully took the public's money, claiming they had businesses. And a lot of them are homeless now. Duh.
That at least $100 billion in COVID relief loan funding earmarked to help small business owners make payroll was stolen by fraudsters.
And that's who were approving. They was fast tracking that money. They didn't look into it. It's ridiculous. I know people who got a lot of money. Couples who got a lot of money.
Tonight, we're relaunching one of our longtime series that you may remember called The Fleecing of America. Over the last 2 years, the federal government approved a historic $5 trillion in pandemic assistance for struggling Americans, small businesses, and healthcare providers. But now investigators say hundreds of billions have been lost to fraud. This $3.5 million Florida mansion seized by the IRS was bought with taxpayer dollars that were supposed to rescue American jobs and small businesses. Instead, according to law enforcement, it funded a swim-up bar and a horse stable. The buyer got $7 million from the federal government, allegedly claiming he had 400 employees. According to prosecutors, he had none.
But yeah, the way they do that is a lot of them, in a lot of cases, a lot of them get together with, I know this is not going to sound right, but they get together with legitimate financial lenders who are crooked. By the time I found out about it, the crooks had stole all the money, which is unfortunate for me and for a lot of well-deserving people who have legitimate businesses. You know, they ought to lock them up and throw away the keys. But yeah. And for that, they got this forgiveness program. It's so strange because there's a lot of people that I know a lot of people that got these loans. They got these loans, and obviously, them people know that they didn't have a business, but they still forgave those loans. I don't understand that. You know, it's people that got away with tons of money. They forgave the loans. Then a lot of people, they got $10,000, $20,000, and they popped them.